So I've done a couple of videos already on sandblasting and powder coating. And what I wanted to focus on today is really just the idea that you don't have to have a lot of expensive equipment. Sure, if you have professional gear, you have lots of knowledge, you have lots of space, you have lots of money, and you have income coming from it, absolutely. I'm sure you're going to get better results, but I have had really, really good results, in my opinion, on pulling together sandblasting and powder coating of a bunch of different brackets. And they're generally smaller items like brackets and supports and bars and different things and hinges and stuff like that. And so I'm working on a bunch of other videos on the 81 Jeep, but that's mainly what I'm focusing on is some of these littler pieces so I can set it up where it's, much smaller scale, much smaller use. I can tuck each of these pieces away in the garage at some place. Got the benchtop sandblasting cabinet, Harbor Freight. It works great. I have a video on it. I have the old smoker that I pulled into an oven. Again, it works fantastic. It gets up to 500 and even north of that. I haven't even bothered just leaving it on to see how hot it could get. I only needed to get to about 400, 425. Well, I outgassed at about 475 to 500, so it just works great for that. It's super easy to use, super light. Again, I can just tuck it away. It only weighs about 30 pounds. And then a compressor over here. You don't need a huge compressor to do the sandblasting. That's mainly what it's used for. You do have to have a compressor for the powder coating, but you're only down at under 10 psi, so it's really not. It's just really enough to blow the powder coat onto the items. The sandblasting cabinet is really kind of the big draw for the compressor. And I'll go over that in another video. But what I wanted to focus on a little bit more is the powder coating oven. I mean the powder coating cabinet itself. Again, you don't have to spend a lot of money. You see a lot of DIY builds that they're 6 feet high, 4 feet deep, and or something more complex. I actually am using a cardboard box. Obviously, it's a theme because I got my smoker / powder coating oven in a cardboard box. It works fantastic, by the way. Anyway, so I made this the other day. This is actually version 2. I had a bigger powder coating booth, spray booth. Before, I wasn't getting the right suction. There was dust getting everywhere. I mean, it worked perfectly fine for what I was doing, but it's just the mess that it created in the rest of the garage. And I'll show that in just a second here. Let's see. So this is the other one I had. I made this sort of temporarily. Again, it's out of cardboard, but you can see it's not boxed in. There was no vacuum pulling in the overspray from the powder coating. So you can kind of see it's black. I mainly just use semi-gloss black from Prismatic Powders. Again, that works great for what I'm doing. But there's really no draw in the air. I tried hooking up a shop vac to it. I thought that would draw in the dust. The dust kind of sits around in the air, but it wasn't getting enough vacuum. And it's no big surprise because it's so open. So this did not work very well. Again, it worked well for what I wanted to do. It just made a big mess and there was dust in the air. By the way, definitely use a respirator when you're doing any kind of powder coating. Even when you have good suction, I just don't trust that stuff. Cannot be good. I mean, it's basically microplastics floating around in the air and you don't want to be breathing that in. So I thought, let's go to a different design. And I've seen a little bit of this, online in a couple of videos. This is, much more contained. I just used a big box, kind of used some tape, used the same kind of internals in the item holder. And then, sorry, the lighting's a little bad, but I am using an Eastwood PCS 250. So that's basically their entry-level powder coating gun. Again, it works great. And I have a little box fan in the back. I'll talk about that in a second. So anyway, you can kind of see this thing is much more enclosed. And what I have there, basically, I made this for $0. I just had a bunch of cardboard sitting around and I taped it together and I pulled it together. Again, I used the inside, this little board that I have here. This is the ground wire that comes in. This just holds it, and it's on this rod here. And so I can turn it. That was the main thing for me, is I wanted to turn this a little bit at a time, step back, coat that side, turn a little bit more. And I'll do a video of it actually shooting the powder on there. You see I made some hooks out of some old metal. I got some old brace material here. So, I mean, the whole thing, again, cost me $0. I have the top. The top comes right off. I need to do some more taping and some other stuff like that. But again, this weighs almost nothing. I can tuck it away super easily. It doesn't take up a lot of space, and it easily fits exactly what I want to powder coat. So again, you can just some cardboard there. So what I saw somebody else do is, this was a filter from my air conditioning unit in my house. So I thought, okay, well, there's a good way to contain the extra powder. And you can kind of see I've already done a little bit of testing on this booth, and it works great. I have a box fan in the back. I just have it snugged up against it. And I had it on medium. I could probably put it on low, but it just draws it right in. You can kind of see the dust as you're powder coating kind of slowly move towards the filter and go into the filter. And again, it works great. I'm really happy with that. I made a little thing so when you pull the top off, I have some old brackets here, and they're just sort of temporary in there, but this thing just slides in and out. So it just slides right up. I can pull this right out. So I pull the top off, and I can pull that out and replace if I need it. I needed to work on a better solution for the type of filter, because I imagine I might have to replace this fairly often. I bet I could just bang it out outside and get a lot of it off there, but I'm going to look at something a little bit more robust. Anyway, again, this is very janky. You kind of see just kind of flimsy cardboard here. But again, I have my light here. By the way, this thing works great. I can move it around. I generally use it to make sure that I'm not missing a spot. I don't have any light spots on the powder coating. I can identify every once in a while. You end up with a blast crystal. I was using glass bead up until a week or two ago, and now I have aluminum monoxide. And every once in a while there would be even though I blow off the items before I put it in here, every once in a while I would find a little crystal of it, and the light really helps identify that. Basically, and when you do find a little crystal, I found that all you gotta do is either try not to blow on it, because there's a lot of humidity in your breath, and that can kind of mess up the surface. But there's some way you can grab one of your air compressor or something like that, and just a little puff of air, that is perfectly fine, and it will blow that little crystal right off, and then you're good to go. Anyway, so this is basically the setup. Again, I'm left-handed. It depends on how you're setting it up, but you just kind of hold this there, press the button down, and then use the gun. Again, I'll show that in a couple of minutes with actually powder coating an item, so you can kind of see. I'm gonna have this over here. I always use this on high. I did a lot of looking online, watching videos and stuff like that. There's a low setting to the Eastwood. There's a high setting. I just use the high setting. I don't really see a big difference between them, but I just soon have higher voltage, higher current, and have better sticking powder. And again, here's the gun. I got to fill it up. Again, it works great. I have a regulator here, and then also you want some kind of drying filter there. These things do not cost much money. You just sort of daisy chain them on there, and you connect up the air in the bottom. You don't want any moisture whatsoever, and with compressed air, I live in Georgia, so it's very, very humid here. So there's a lot of moisture in there, so you definitely want some kind of water separation, but it's a pretty simple setup.